Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We listen to two learned persons. Our Prabhuji spoke about Brahma Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Karan Singh ji spoke about primarily the Vedas, including the Upanishads. Summarizing what they were said, and Karan Singh ji particularly emphasized how Vedanta provides us the solutions to life, and therefore also the solutions to all the difficult problems that we are facing today. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna begins his teaching with this verse, Ashochan Anvashocastvam. Arjuna is told that you are grieving for that which does not deserve to be grieved, meaning Lord Krishna says that there is no cause for shoka or grief in our life. So ideally we should all be happy, because Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. Upanishads say that Ananda or wholeness or completeness is our nature. And as Karan Singh say, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Not only I am complete, whatever is a manifestation of Brahman or wholeness or completeness. So ideally there should be no unhappiness anywhere, because what is Ananda, what is completeness, wholeness. And still, as Kabirji says, Pani mein meen piyasi, how the fish is thirsty in spite of being in the water. So this is the fundamental difficulty that we have. That the one who is whole and complete and limitless by nature takes himself to be a limited being, incomplete being, inadequate being. And Vedanta explains that this is the source of all the problems. If you understand the cause of the problems, then we can proceed towards the solution. And the cause is right within me. If I'm unhappy, if I'm grieving, the cause is right within me. That I am unhappy in spite of there being no reason for being unhappy. So Vedanta says that ignorance is the primary reason. This ignorance creates a distorted perception about myself and a distorted perception of the universe. Ideally, what should be the perception of myself? that I'm all right as I am. There's no lack, no want in me, which is the reality about me. But the distorted perception is that I'm lacking, wanting. And unfortunately, more I try to remove that lack or want, more I try to fulfill my desires, the desires seem to be multiplying because I am trying to solve a problem which does not exist, which is not a legitimate problem. All desires come from my belief or notion that I am a needy, incomplete being. I have to become complete, I have to become happy. That by nature I'm unhappy and I have to become happy. Vedanta explains that this is like searching for something which is already there. A very common example is of a person searching for a golden chain, searching everywhere, whereas the chain is right in her own neck. Meaning searching for something which is already there in me. And that is the reason why the search will never come to an end. So the answer to this basic problem of human grief, which comes from insatiable desires, and when the pressure of desire becomes strong, that is when I am forced to compromise the values. And that is how I create violence within me and I create violence outside of me. So Vedanta explains that the violence that we find outside originates from the violence within me when I am violating myself. I am all the time putting down myself, declaring myself to be a helpless, hapless creature, whereas in reality, I am a whole and complete being. So as long as we give reality to these needs and wants, then the needs and wants keep on multiplying. And a time comes when it is no more possible for me to fulfill those needs by legitimate means, and therefore I have to adopt illegitimate means or adharma. And thus we find the prevalence of adharma everywhere, which creates a conflict in me first, because I am acting against my own nature, and creates conflict outside. So Vedanta explains that the cause of all the conflicts is to be found within myself. And coming back to Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says something very simple. What is the cause of these conflicts? Trividam narakasyedam dvaram nashanam atmanah kamah krodhas tatha lobhah tasmat etat trayam tyajet. So what is it for which we were immediately what we have to attend to? What is the immediate cause of all sorrow and unhappiness within me and without me in the world? Then there is abuse of the environment, abuse of power. All abuse takes place because of this kama, krodha and lobha. Kama means lust. And that lust is responsible for all human violations. Krodha is anger, and that creates all the injury and hurt and destruction outside. And Lobha is a greed for wealth, greed for power, and that causes all the dishonesty, corruption, aggression. So the solution to all the problems that I described lies within ourselves. That if we work on these fundamental problems that we have within ourselves, greed, anger, lust, which all arise from ignorance, to the extent that we resolve these situations within ourselves, to that extent we gain peace within ourselves, and we also contribute to the peace without ourselves. So how to do this? Our current Singhi talked about this, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. So summarizing all of them in our day-to-day life, what is a simple thing that we can do? What one simple value that we can adopt, which can progressively make us free from these inner enemies of Kama, Krodha and Lobha. Lord Krishna explains in the Gita that may you perform the actions in the spirit of yoga. We were talking about Karma Yoga, where current things say dedicating your action to Lord. So Lord Krishna says that may you perform your actions as an offering. Because in the whole universe there is this harmony called yajna or self-offering. And therefore, may you perform your actions in the spirit of self-offering. In the words of my teacher, Pujya Swami Shri, transform yourself from being a consumer to a contributor. He used to say that whenever anybody comes before me, whenever somebody comes before me, there can be two approaches. The approach that our Pujya Swami had is, whenever anybody comes before me, the question that arises in my mind is, how can I be useful to this person? One approach is, how can I be useful to the person? The second approach is, how can I use the person? These are two contradictory approaches. So who is a consumer? One who uses others for his benefit, for self-gratification. And a contributor is one who becomes instrument for gratifying others. So in this simple transformation lies the solution to all the problems in the universe. If a human being understands how to be happy, unfortunately, we are made to believe from our childhood that more you consume, happier you are, more the merrier. So it's a consuming society. More you consume, more there is production, more there is circulation of money, more employment, more GDP, whatever it is. So, emphasis on consumption, which is what brings about all the destruction, all the violation of the laws, all the violation of environment, every violation can be traced to the human consumption. Because nobody other than human being is a consumer. All of them consume and contribute. Human being is the only one with a free will which can be abused, and that's how it's all abuse of free will. Which freedom the human being given for his self-growth. But instead of that, if the free will is abused, I become a consumer, I become an exploiter, and that's how all exploitation of nature will happen. Exploitation of all the weaker sections. So instead of my being the protector, I become an exploiter. So this is the reason of a wrong understanding of what makes me happy. The wrong understanding is, more the consumption is, happier I am. The right understanding is, more I contribute, happier than I am. And so, being a contributor, being an offerer, is the way of the first step of becoming happy. Then comes the Bhakti Yoga, then comes the Jnana Yoga. It all leads, one thing leads to the other. If the world understands this one single simple concept of transforming, this is Vedanta today. He is transforming myself from a consumer to a contributor. Swamiji, what should I do? I'm no more able to go out in the world and contribute. What can I do? Well, every interaction that I have with anybody can be an opportunity to become a contributor. Whoever I interact with, if my basic desire or value is how can I contribute? How can I become an instrument for creating some comfort for the other person? A simple act of kindness. So more and more acts of kindness flow from me. More and more greater contributor I am. More I become the source of creating peace and happiness for others, and I create peace and happiness for myself. So peace and happiness is what human being wants, every living being wants. And Bhagavad Gita gives us a very simple solution. Yajñārthat karanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanah tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangas samachara. Here Arjuna, whenever you perform an action which is a self-centered action, action for consumption, it binds you, meaning that makes you more and more needy, more and more helpless. On the other hand, an action performed in the spirit of yajna, offering, creates freedom. And so, human being wants freedom. Unfortunately, the method that we adopted for being happy and free makes us more unhappy and more bound. And therefore you struggle, and therefore you fight, and therefore more violence is created. We just turn around. If the simple concept is understood, I use my free will to transform myself from being a grabber to a giver, a consumer to a contributor. The simple transformation. If this is a value that we can teach our children, value that we can teach the youngsters, value that we can teach ourselves, of course, to begin with, is quite capable of completely transforming the whole universe. Because wherever the human being has a noble idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, so the European Union, but then comes the selfishness, comes greed, there's insecurity, and there Brexit comes. So all of these split forces which are coming and splitting things from all insecurity, from fear, from greed, all of them can be changed by a change in understanding of the fundamental principle of life. That to be happy and to be free, the means is to be a giver and not a grabber, to be a contributor and not a consumer. And all the problems will be solved. If I am happy within myself, I cannot abuse anybody. A happy person is a non-violent person. So all the violence comes from inner conflicts, inner unhappiness, insecurity, fear. And more I consume, more insecure and more fearful I become. More I contribute, more secure and free I become. Just a very simple concept for Vedanta today to add to what our learned speaker said, because Karan Singh ji talked about the problems and the solution of course is there. All this is Brahman. But that will become our knowledge provided our life is based on this value that the whole universe is a family. In family is always cooperation, not competition. So basic concept that we adopted for prosperity is to compete and make human being a machine by invoking greed from him is a very destructive principle, a violent principle. So everything is based on violence. Competition is violence. Consumption is violence. So it's going to breed greed and insecurity, and all violence comes from insecurity. So Bhagavad Gita teaches us a very simple thing called yajna, which is the universal harmony. And more our life is in tune with that universal harmony, happier we are, and we become the instrument of creating happiness from others. Oh.